Hello, this is regarding Office 365. You're with Daryl as a Service Webster, and I'm joined today by Simon Denton, one of our writers for regarding Office 365. How you doing, Simon?
Good, thanks, Daryl. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, whereabouts are you at the moment?
I'm actually studying building one of Microsoft at the moment, so I'm over this week filming a webinar for the Fast Track team, and I took the opportunity to camp out and get some work done and nag the product groups about all the things that were kind of bugging me and the things I wanted to learn. It's a great opportunity to be here.
Yeah, to be a flea in the ear, and it always helps to do that in person, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it makes a massive difference. You see the whites of their eyes, right? You see, oh wow, it's a customer. Yeah, it's a good experience.
You know, you'd be surprised at how many developers and groups don't get to talk to real customers and real people.
Yeah.
There's this barrier there, and they really appreciate the hearing. Oh, is that how you use it? Oh, I never really thought of that
Yeah.
use case. That's really
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. I think they learn an awful lot. I've had 2 or 3 days now of going through things, and I think there's a whole load of product updates and changes and use cases that they really understand from actually talking them through with me. So it's good, really productive.
Oh, good stuff. And it's also quite exciting to be part of that creation process, isn't it? So where
Yeah.
they might hint and say, here's a few things that we're thinking of. What do you think? Or, hey, that's a really good idea. Let's think about incorporating that. How would you use it? And you know, that process and being part of it's quite exciting too.
It is, and it has real parallels to kind of my background in civil engineering, because
Right.
we'd look at problems and solve problems and work out how to build things, and yeah, you can go through the same process with the IT engineers, as they call themselves, to solve problems and develop use cases and so on. So yes, there's real parallels between my past and what I'm trying to do now.
Well, yeah, that sort of leads right into partly why we're introducing you and talking to you, because you wrote a really interesting story on our publication about your backgrounds and how you made this transition from being a civil engineer to an IT pro. And I thought you've just alluded to one of the reasons why. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, I guess so. So a bit of background. Yeah, I'm currently a business architect with a global consultancy. We've got 16,000 staff around the world, and the consultancy specialises in engineering development and management. And so about 4 years ago, when the construction industry was taking a bit of a dive, thanks to the global recession, I needed something to do, and I really liked who I worked for, and I still do, I hasten to add. And I'd already used a bit of technology in the projects I worked in. I mean, construction is really technology heavy. You might drive past a roadworks or a local building site and you see a lot of physical activity. But to get to that point and then to coordinate that point, there's a load of tech that goes on, a lot of 3D, 4D visualization, a lot of the analysis is now done on computer models and things like that. So I've always had a bit of tech in me, a little bit of passing interest in trying to make my projects better, to leverage technology. So it made a real natural move when the market was going downwards. I wanted to stay where I was. I couldn't find any work at the time. So I moved across into our IT service. Where I started off, I guess at the bottom rung, like everyone does. I started off on the frontline help desk, crunching tickets and trying to help my former colleagues, find out where their on switches are onto their machines and things like that. So I could kind of took my journey from there.
Yeah, that's an interesting transition. I mean, I like the way that when you're writing in that story, how you drew these comparisons between working in the civil industry, working within a building, and equating that to the collaboration experience. And I just imagine, as you say, that what we might see as a traffic island or an intersection, and we go past it and we think, oh, that's great, or not even think about it at all. And all the collaboration and versions and various things that had to happen quickly but accurately to get to that point. You just got to optimize that experience to get that kind of work done, don't you?
Yeah, you definitely do, and you need to get it to the same point that it is like a traffic island. You just pass, you just use it, you just cross the road. You don't even think about what's below your feet, really. And that is a real parallel between the technology and getting people to adopt the technology, like Office 365. You want it as part of their everyday. You don't want to really think about how do I do this. You just want it as part of their natural actions and behaviours. And I guess coming from an engineering background, yeah, gives me that perspective. I'm pretty good at building things that people may not even see or appreciate the complexity of, but they use it every day, and that helps them get their lives done.
One thing that impresses me about your approach too, you're quite thorough, and I guess that also is something of your engineering background. So when you and I met for the first time at Ignite in Chicago, the first time they ran the big events, you were trying to gather together different use cases and examples of how do we use this Office 365 groups thing, and how do we use Yammer. I think you were just starting to look into those sorts of things. So whereabouts were you on your journey there with the IT Pro career?
Yeah, sure. So I think, that's 2015 when we met up,
That's
and
right, yeah.
I think I was describing myself as a fledgling enterprise architect at the time, so I couldn't find a reasonable job title. But yeah, now I am my formal title is business architect, and where I am in my journey, I'm responsible for Office 365 at Mott MacDonald. I look after the service strategy, its architecture. I look at the collaboration applications. I look at the wider piece at how Office 365 integrates with things like engineering content management systems. And I guess you're right. The reason why I've got that is because as an engineer, we take a very holistic view about how things work. I think probably the worst thing you can do is take a very discrete view on how a particular application works. If you don't take a step back, it makes the adoption journey really, really difficult. And I think that comes through in also being an engineer, being really thorough. You're right. Okay, so we engineers love specifications. There's nothing finer than a decent specification where you can just fill in the blanks and understand. If you fill in those blanks correctly, you can get something built that's going to serve a real purpose, and you know how long it's going to last. And that was where I was in Chicago. I was trying to work out what was the purpose of groups, what was the purpose of how would I fit into SharePoint, to Yammer, and how would I put them together. And I was really struggling at the time, but Ignite was really, really powerful and kind of really opened my eyes in how certainly the technologists viewed the products, and then that really helped me relate on how we could use the products. So now where I am in our journey now is the fact that I do have quite a big matrix about our business-related use cases. I've been building heavily upon material from Fast Track to help me get to that point in time, and I can now align our corporate visions around Office 365, about getting work done anywhere, anytime, on any device, to quite an extensive catalogue of ideas, from simple things like taking your meeting notes in OneNote to emailing them out, to really complex areas about how do we collaborate and have knowledge management across Yammer and SharePoint, and join that together with the SharePoint profiles. And that's some really complex use cases come out of that. And yeah, that was the real start of my journey.
Yeah, that reminds me of that Doughboy story that you shared as well. I love that. It's like, that's a great description of that generic face icon thingo that we have if we sign up and don't upload our photos. People, do not be a Doughboy or a Doughgirl. Upload your photo. And then you'll also see what Simon meant about the dance that you currently have to do, where you upload it, then you get pushed over to this site and pushed over to that site, and then finally somehow these pictures eventually arrive. There's something else that came to mind as you were talking about the collaboration and making use of this tech and discovering it, back in 2015 and looking deeper. We're keen on Office 365 and what it does, but what about those connection points? How did you bridge the gap between technology and the other tools within your business to make it feel like here's just a really easy set of tools to just get your job done collaboratively, and then going over to the more line of business and key applications within Mott MacDonald? Yeah.
So I think I'm guilty as everyone. I went in really deep to begin with. I took a real deep dive, and I tried to look at the real how could I wire X to Y and get all these things flowing. And it took me a little while to realize that it's all about actually the user experience, user journey, usability was the real focus of it. So I really started taking a step back about how simplistically, what was the workflow? How would someone create a new project in our ERP system? And what was then important about that project that we needed to reflect into SharePoint or into the engineering content management system? And once I took that abstract and took that step back, I realized actually the only key was actually a job number. That's the only thing I needed to flow through, because if I needed to find more about it, finance-wise, go to the ERP. If they need to find the content, go to SharePoint. If they need to do something else, go to somewhere else. And it took me 2 or 3 months to kind of adjust from really going deep into the detail and trying to build the detail to get to this point where actually I need to abstract out. I need to get something as usable, the minimum viable product in terms of getting people on board. And from that, I think that really helped adoption, because there was no real complexities then for people to understand. Oh, I need to understand the wiring. It was just, okay, this is kind of natural. This is what I would do. And what Simon's actually done is save me 60 seconds, right? So he's just moved the job number from here to here, and that's a real saving. He hasn't gone for the big bang and saved me an hour, but I know that's coming, because if I start here, I start saving loads to 60 seconds, and I'm on this journey with him, and the complexity will build. Yeah,
I like the way you say that you talked about it as a minimum viable product, and that what you're putting together. Some of these things are out and they're mature, but the way that you're presenting them to your organisation for adoption, you're taking the minimal approach. You're coming in and saying, look, here's just a little something that's going to help you and your team or you and your day, and just gradually building on that. Do you have any other tips like that come to mind around adoption and helping to get something just ease in and seem like or feel like a natural collaboration experience?
Yeah, I mean, to really help with adoption is to really keep as close to out of the box as possible. So don't get tempted to go in and start configuring SharePoint until it looks like a completely different product, because you're going to disappear down the Alice in Wonderland moment, and it will take you an age, and SharePoint change, and your life will become very difficult. But if you keep it as close to the out of the box, is then in terms of adoption, people don't actually need to come to you. If they need to understand how to add a list or a library, and you haven't added any custom configurations, a quick Google search will get them to the right page, or say from Microsoft, how to add a list or a library. I mean, there's no need to tailor training materials. The short bite-sized stuff's out there. It makes life a lot simpler for people to get that initial step in place, and that works really well for SharePoint. Similarly for OneNote, Word, if you're building templates, try and keep them as light and simple as possible, and then you can maximize your usage of really good resources that are already out there.
Yeah, we as IT pros tend to dig in, find a deeper level of things, and go, how can I incorporate that? That'd just be awesome to get them in. But thinking of our people, our end users, they've got other things to do, and they focus on the work. And in terms of our careers, of course, we can focus on that. So, it's I like that approach, taking it easy and drip feeding things in. And I was just thinking too, like you said, use SharePoint out of the box. That's not a sin. That's not a bad thing to do. That think about it. People have been using Windows Explorer for how long? And file shares. Do they dress those up? Do they pretty those up? I think in Windows 98 we're able to do some weird stuff with presenting it as an HTML page on. But apart from that, people are, just want to use the tool to get the job done and not make it too difficult. I don't want to keep you too much of your time. I just had one more question too, and it was really around the role of the tech community and how that played a role in discovering how to do things. Not just the take but the give kind of experience there. It's changed a bit, hasn't it? But it's essentially still the same nature and idea of IT pros sharing content.
Sure, and I think as IT pros, we're all on this ridiculously steep learning curve, right? So everything's changing every day. Yeah, that's a horrible statement, but it's true. Yeah, everything is changing. It's evergreen. You can't fight against it.
We'll blame them.
Yeah, we blame. Yeah, they come up with a shiny new idea, and it's out there, and you're dog fooding it. But the point is, the only way I found to learn and actually keep pace with the rate of change is through participation in communities. I found that the published material was kind of lagging behind, and I needed to consume as much as I could as quickly as possible. And the fact is, my entry into the various tech communities was about consumption before I made the shift to contribution. And once I kind of understood what was going on and what the questions and that I need to ask and what the questions other people wanted to ask. So I cannot underscore enough how important community is in getting you on your journey as an IT pro and sustaining you and keeping you current.
I think that that's a good point to finish off there. That we as IT pros are adapting because the technology around us is changing quickly. We do gripe and groan about it because we've got to deal with this change. But community is important, and we also have to, I guess, come
and you're not alone, right?
Yeah, you're not alone, and you got to come to a humility point too, and realize you can't know everything, and you don't have to be a know-it-all. It's okay to ask for help and reach out and say, you know what? Hey, Sonia Cuff, you just showed me that. On the DVD media for installing Office or Office Professional, it's using the click to run thing. Well, I didn't know that. I haven't touched a DVD in a couple of years. We lean on each other for those sorts of things, especially with all the updates, and that is where community comes in. So, you and I would agree, encouraging people to belong to that techcommunity.microsoft.com is a good place to get in there and be part
of it. And you're right. You can't be master of everything, right? So just kind of roll with it. 10,000 eyes make things a lot easier to spot when someone sneaks change in behind the scenes.
Yeah, we become more like facilitators. I mean, I don't see myself as a deep expert in anything, but being able to make connections with different tech and knowing where to get the answers, I think, is the key thing.
Yeah, definitely. IT pros are becoming enablers, they're cajolers. And that's the role of the IT pro in the cloud. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Simon, for jumping on with me. I thought we'd do this while you're closer to my time zone. You're usually in England, I'm usually in New Zealand. It's about 12 hours difference. So with you over on the East Coast, you're about, well, we still say 19 hours behind, but I see you as 4 hours ahead in instance.
Yeah.
So,
in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks everyone who tuned in. Simon's an interesting guy. Reach out, read his posts and articles. He's got a lot of good ideas, and really keen to just hear back from everyone who is keen to know more and talk more about Office 365. Come and see our Facebook page. We're trying to do live broadcasts there. Trying to pipe it out to YouTube live as well, and of course our publication is at reoffice365.com. So thank you again, Simon, and have an awesome day, and we'll see you again on the network.
Cheers, thanks for having me.
Okay, bye now.